Starters here. Matthew from the Isle of Man says, good day to you all. I have a burning question about Death Stranding. What the fuck is it?
That's the hot question.
For 5 years now, I have had a theory about Death Stranding that I have not been able to get out of my head. If you have played Death Stranding, the most recent release from Kojima Productions and Hideo Kojima, you probably know that it's a polarizing game. People seem to either love it or hate it, including journalists, content creators, and even seemingly his biggest fans.
He is probably the most well-known game creator in the world.
That embargo lifted, I was like, man, I think I don't want to hear anyone talk about Death Stranding ever again.
For a long time now, I have been unsure of how I feel from a critical perspective, because although I undoubtedly love playing Death Stranding and I enjoy Hideo Kojima's storytelling, I too could understand and appreciate the criticisms levied at him and his work.
The stakes and expectations could not have been higher for Kojima, but he smashed them in ways that few could have thought possible. Death Stranding is absolutely genius.
But its message falls flat amidst a noise of fetch quests, cringy dialogue, a bloated runtime, and boring gameplay.
His dialogue choices and narrative arcs seem to really bother and baffle people. His work contains a rich symbolism that begs the player to try and decode its underlying meaning. Character portrayals, designs, dialogue, they're all abstract, often opaque, or even seemingly intentionally distorted. For some, this kind of writing keeps them from connecting with his work, while for others it seems to create an unbreakable bond.
No amount of bad gameplay is worth whatever minutes of cutscenes vaguely explaining a nebulous plot with pseudo-philosophical dribble.
It is striking in its presentation, intriguing in its gameplay systems, fully committed to its themes and messages, and it's got something to say.
Kojima takes a regressive step backwards into his patented lecture-based storytelling.
In my case, Death Stranding was the first Hideo Kojima game that I had ever played from the first trailer until now. While I played and enjoyed Metal Gear Solid V, and I was truly enthralled by his writing, I had trouble connecting with the material. While there were many overt allusions to classical works from film and literature that I could pick out, there were some obvious symbols and allusions that I just had no context with which to understand.
When you balance expectation of hundreds of millions of dollars in investment with wanting to stay true to your vision, that's like playing Russian roulette with 6 bullets.
I personally would greatly prefer a more lean story as opposed to a super heavy and bloated one, which is what we got.
I began to research and was assured by many that many of these symbols and allusions were references to previous entries in the Metal Gear Solid series, which I accepted, and I allowed myself to settle on the idea that I like Hideo Kojima's work, but I likely will not put the level of effort necessary to fully understand MGSV.
It's the obligation of any artist to push boundaries.
We saw like an explosion of real-world topics like multiple dimensions.
Hey man, that's a real-world topic I'm talking about.
Okay, cool. The theory of multiple dimensions is definitely a real-world topic. So is the theory of superheroes.
So imagine my joy when suddenly Hideo Kojima abruptly leaves Konami and begins releasing trailers for a brand new IP, Death Stranding. I was fascinated and overjoyed. I immediately began watching theory videos and engaging with the community to find clues in the trailers. I had never connected with a player base like that before, and the trailers had me obsessed with every aspect of the game. When it released, I took an entire week off to play, and I did. I played it straight through, and I was just as confused as everyone else.
The risk is it's too radical, and that's where the creative courage comes in.
Centers around some of the most on-the-nose, redundant, in-your-face exposition I think I might have seen in a Kojima game, and that's saying something.
Video gaming is an art, but the only person in charge of the orchestra is the auteur.
After playing, I felt like something was off for a long time. Most of my theories about the game's narrative and game world seemed to be suffering, but I also simply felt like there was just something missing. This feeling lasted for years until about 4 months ago, I decided that I was sick of my uncertainty about the game. And I had this theory for so long, and Death Stranding 2 was on the horizon, so I decided I would just put every effort for a certain amount of time into just disproving it, so that I could move on. I picked at every scene and every in-game interview with as much scrutiny as I could, full time, for weeks, hoping I would run into the dead ends that would at least allow me to put it to bed. And instead, I think I did the opposite.
They don't spend a lot of time explaining anything to you because it seems like no one in this world actually understands anything that's going on until they understand all of it and won't stop telling it to you.
And so I was, so again, not, I'm worked up. I don't hate it.
Right.
I'm like
I don't either.
I'm kind of angry or a little confused because I feel like I'm not in on it. Like I feel like something's happening that maybe I'm like, oh, is this a genre of thing that we're supposed to not get?
In the in-game interview entitled Chiral Network 1, Mama compares the goals of Bridges to the 3-stage rocket used to get humanity to the moon, and how Bridges hopes to use a 3-stage process to set up the chiral network. Stage 1 was the first expedition, setting up the chiral network terminals across America. Stage 2 was Sam, and the game that you and I all played. So who is Stage 3? Stage 3 is you. In this video series, I will claim and share with you the bones of a theory that in the end will endeavor to demonstrate the following. 1. That Hideo Kojima is not only an excellent writer, but is perhaps one of the greatest storytellers in world history. 2. That Death Stranding is a work of enigmatic genius that will be honored and studied in perpetuity. 3. That all of the as yet unexplained phenomena in the game, such as timefall, chiral clouds, upside down rainbows, and so on, can all be explained with current, real science. 4. That there is a parallel narrative embedded within Death Stranding that itself formulates a remarkably coherent adaptation of the myth of Osiris. 5. That Death Stranding is hiding cooperative gameplay mechanics in plain sight, both right in front of your eyes and just behind your head. 6. That these cooperative mechanics include a Metal Gear Solid V-style nuclear disarmament global cooperation puzzle that I believe I both understand and know how to solve. And that solving that puzzle will unlock more story, cutscenes, in-game items, and mechanics. 7. That I can tell you with relative certainty many of the themes, gameplay mechanics, and story content of Death Stranding 2. And 8. That everything I have said in this list so far combined does not amount to how spectacular the final thing that I will reveal in this video series will be. The 3-stage process. Join Bridges 3 and make your connections. Tie your knots. A new community where your contributions will matter and where I will tell your story. Bridges 3 wants you.